Hello, everyone. My name is Karrin Mayfield Felton, and I am the owner of Feet Planted LLC, as well as your host for the Black Speakers Network Women's History Month Speaker Series. I hope y'all are excited. As a woman, I love celebrating myself, and I definitely enjoy celebrating other women. You are in for a treat. Today, we are going to listen to dynamic speakers, and in the next couple of hours, you're going to have a front row seat to speakers who are going to share their story. One of the things that I love about listening to others tell their story is that we all have different perspectives. We all have different experiences, and there's nothing better than to sit at the feet of someone and have them inspire you, for you to walk away learning something, and for you to be able to take what you're hearing, apply it so that your life can be enriched and that you can enrich the lives of others. The reason that Women's History Month is important is because we all want to be seen, we all want to be heard, but we definitely want to be appreciated. And I can tell you, some of the spaces that I've been in, and probably you too, if you're a woman, you may not have been appreciated, but have no fear. Today, we are going to celebrate. In the words of the illustrious former First Lady of the United States, Michelle Obama, there is no limit to what we as women can accomplish. While you sit there listening intently, I know that you will, let your presence be known. We're a community and we want to exchange information. So if you hear something that inspires you, put it in the chat. If you want to tell the company that you are with, put that in the chat so that we can know each other, learn from each other, and just sit and enjoy what these women are going to share with us today. I know you're going to be inspired. I know that you're going to take notes, and what is going to be said is going to impact us not just for the moment, but for the other moments to come. Thank you for joining us, and let's get ready to be inspired.
I am Dr. Tina Woodard, the founder and CEO of Capstone Performance Solutions. We are a human resources consulting firm that provides organizational consulting, leadership development, and executive coaching. I have heard that fear, F-E-A-R, is false evidence appearing real. What's most important is how we respond to fear when we experience it. My parents are retired school teachers, and you know, school teachers don't make a ton of money, so we primarily lived on credit and layaway. And my parents taught me the only success formula that they knew, which was to go to school, make good grades, get into a great college, earn your degree so that you will be able to land a great job. And I did just that. I went to the top engineering school in my state, earned an engineering degree, and landed a job with a global Fortune 500 corporation. And I was earning double the salary that my parents were making. I purchased my own home and purchased a new car. So by the world's definition of success, I made it. I was successful, correct? Not really. Something inside of me just didn't feel right. If I was successful, then why did I feel so unhappy to the point where I would literally cry on my drive to work every day? If this was success, then it wasn't the type of success that I anticipated. And what I learned is that while engineering is a great job, it wasn't the job for me because it did not align with my natural gifts and talents. And I frankly felt quite discouraged, disappointed, and longed to do something different. So after a lot of deliberation, prayer, and research, I found human resources and I changed careers. And working in human resources was certainly more aligned with my goals, my talents, my gifts, and my interests. And so I began to get promoted. I was promoted into management and executive level positions really quickly. And so I enjoyed the work. However, what I discovered is that the work environment was extremely toxic. Leaders were more concerned with politics than performance. The operations were more bureaucratic than innovative. And the predominant leadership style was one of command and control. Once again, I found myself disappointed, discouraged, and dismayed in my career. I knew I was meant for more, and I sensed that I could really have a greater impact if I were free to work outside of the four walls of that office. I aspired to become an entrepreneur, but unfortunately, I was too afraid. False evidence began to set in. I doubted my ability to run my own company. Furthermore, my family relied on me and depended on my income, and my children were approaching their high school graduations and would soon need college tuition money from mom. So I quickly talked myself out of resigning my job to become an entrepreneur. Yes, fear became the dominant way and primary driver of my decision making. And I did what 85% of people do every day: wake up and go to a job that I hated. My decision to give in to that fear meant that I had to continue going to a job that I disliked, fighting traffic in Atlanta for an hour and a half one way every single day, only to get to a toxic work environment. It was an extremely low point in my life. And then one day I received a call from my father. And when I answered his call, I didn't know at the time that that call would ultimately change my life. On the other end of that phone, my father sounded very worried. He said, "Tina, it's your mom. We are just leaving the doctor's office. She had a mammogram today and they found something and they want her to come back for additional tests." I could not believe what I was hearing. A plethora of emotions overwhelmed me to the point where I just collapsed in my office chair. And I said, "Dad, slow down. Tell me again exactly what did the doctor say?" We later learned that my mother had been diagnosed with stage 3 breast cancer and that she would need to undergo chemotherapy, several rounds of radiation, in addition to a major surgery. We could not believe that she was facing this as a 70-year-old. In our minds, we were preparing for the worst. We thought my mother was going to be weak, frail, and sick, but my mother did not buy into the false evidence that life was presenting to her in that moment. She chose a different vision for herself than what we had chosen. And my mother was anything but sick, weak, and frail. In fact, she was strong, vivacious, and determined to beat cancer. In fact, she was still doing her own grocery shopping. She was still doing her own laundry. And it was so inspiring for us to see her that tenacious about beating cancer. She aspired to overcome something that was really difficult in her life, and she did it. And today, she is cancer-free. Dr. Wayne Dyer says, when you change the way you look at things, the things you look at change. And what I learned from watching my mother battle cancer is that fear is really a cage to which the one captured holds the key. So if we really want to experience our best, most fulfilled life, we must aspire to excel in life, which really means create the vision of the outcome that you really want, and then develop the courage to do the difficult, challenging things. Because the choices we make every day determine if we will get closer to or farther away from our purpose, our joy, and our destiny in life. So I made a choice to change the way I looked at achieving my goal of starting my own business. I really drew strength from watching my mother battle and beat cancer. And with her as my inspiration, I found the courage to resist the fear and the negativity that dictated my decisions. And later on that same year, I resigned my full-time job and launched my business. And this month, we are celebrating 7 years of thriving in business by coaching and developing leaders with clients all over the country. Now, I wish I could tell you this process was easy, but it was not. In fact, it has been one of the most difficult, challenging professional experiences that I've ever had. But it is also the most rewarding and the most fulfilling experience that I've ever had. See, I learned to initiate and effectively navigate changes and transitions in life that ultimately led me to achieving my goal, which is my destiny and my definition of success. And now I am excited to wake up every day because I get to do the work that I was created to do, work that I love doing so much so that it doesn't feel like work. So if you are discontent with your present level of success in any area of your life, if you're frustrated by not reaching your goals, whatever they may be, and if you desire to overcome fear and pursue your uniquely designed destiny, you can choose today to aspire to excel. Take the next big step. Do the difficult thing and position yourself to achieve your goals. When you aspire to excel in life, you push past the fear, because pushing ourselves to the edge of our perceived capability is where our greatest growth occurs. Dennis Waitley said there are two primary choices in life: to accept conditions as they exist or accept the responsibility for changing them. Choose to change your life and you can change the world. I'm Dr. Tina Woodard, Capstone Performance Solutions. Contact me to speak, and please follow me on social media. Most importantly, aspire to excel in life.
Happy Women's History Month, friends, and welcome to the presentation, What Glass Ceiling? In the next 10 minutes, I'm going to prove to you that women are, and they always have been, unstoppable. Hey friends, I'm Quay. I'm a U.S. Navy veteran, former corporate executive, and now I own a consulting firm here in Las Vegas where I do some strategic advising, speaking, and coaching, and I help people get on a faster track to success without working harder, without all the burnout, so they can live by design and not by default. Today, I am your friendly speaker, coach, and tour guide on our journey through the brilliant history of women who actually represent a tad over 49% of people on Earth. We're almost halfway there, guys. We are. So back in 1917, Jeannette Rankin was the first woman in Congress. And now 1917, that was actually 2 years before women could legally vote in America. And she was already on Congress. And she is quoted to say, men and women are like right hand and left hand. It doesn't make sense not to use both. Let's give her a round of applause on that one. And 2 years after joining Congress, the law was passed to legally allow women to vote. And now this was June 4th, 1919. But our girl, Miss Rankin, was already in Congress shattering glass ceilings. And so I have to ask, would you believe in glass ceilings if no one told you they existed? Would you? I didn't, because no one told me I had a glass ceiling. When I first heard the term, I got so confused. I'm like, glass ceiling? Are we in a box? Does it cover this whole area, this whole company, or just this industry? But is there a way around this glass ceiling? Or is the only way through it? You see, our belief system can be a barrier or it can be a breakthrough. Our belief system can break us down or help us break through. I broke through. I broke through what they call a glass ceiling because they were never a part of my belief system, ever. And when you start to feel like someone is installing a glass ceiling, I want you to remember at this stage in the game, the only person who could stop you is you. The only person who can install a glass ceiling for you is you. And I want to give you 3 mindset shifting statements, quotes from powerful and successful women throughout our history who broke glass ceilings. And these statements will help you to stay empowered to create your own legacy. Let's go. First and foremost, Miss Diana Ross. So beautiful, so strong, so powerful. She told us to stop in the name of love. So she is quoted as saying, instead of looking at the past, I put myself ahead 20 years and I try to look at what I need to do now in order to get there then. Now let's think about that. Most of us have a 5-year plan, 10-year plan. But Diana Ross said she put herself 20 years ahead. And then she needed to know what to do now in order to get there then. This is the power of visualization. This is the power of goal setting, planning, and taking action. And now Diana Ross has sang songs from Detroit, Michigan into all of our homes and hearts for decades. And I bet you this was a part of her visualization. She had to see it before she could achieve it. Follow her lead. The next person I have for you is Bethany Hamilton. Now, I just was introduced to her in this quote, but it is profound. Write this one down. I don't need easy, I just need possible. See, her story, when she was 13 years old, she got her arm bit off by a shark. I mean, bit off at the shoulder by a shark. If a shark bit off my shoulder, I probably would never get in the ocean again. But she went from getting her arm bit off to winning a national championship. She said it didn't have to be easy. She just needed it to be possible. She says that her coaches got her through the tragedy of losing an arm all the way to the national championship. Bethany didn't need easy. She just needed possible. And when belief systems collide, her belief system and her coach's belief system in a supporting environment, that's when the unbelievable becomes check offable. So listen to Bethany. You don't need easy. It's never going to be easy, but you just need it to be possible. And lastly, I want to bring Miss Shirley Chisholm. And she was the first Black woman elected into Congress. And this was around 1968. So about 40 years or 50 years after Miss Rankin, Miss Chisholm came. And it took a little while, a half a century, but we made it. You know why? Because women are unstoppable. And she is quoted to say, we must reject not only the stereotypes that others hold of us, but the stereotypes that we hold of ourselves. So just because someone else says that you have a glass ceiling doesn't mean that you have to believe that. We have to let go of the stereotypes, the ones that come from others and the ones that come from ourselves. And now here this is 1968. The civil rights movement has just passed and she's in Congress. What glass ceiling, friends? And she is also quoted with saying, which I believe wholeheartedly, if they don't give you a seat at the table, you bring a folding chair. That's it. You bring a folding chair. What glass ceiling? She's telling us if it's a table and they don't give us a spot, we bring our own spot. We bring our own chair. That is the power of being a woman. What glass ceiling? I asked you. So I just shared with you 3 different women. We had a surfer, a singer, and a politician. We're covering all aspects here. They may be different in how they express themselves to the world, but the 3 things that they have in common is that they believe in themselves, they stayed confidently on course, and they shattered glass ceilings for us, the women of the future. And so now it is our turn to contribute to women's history. It's our turn to go out there and do something great. I challenge you to be a part of women's history. I want to see what you do, the history you make. And we may be able to make history together. To do that, we got to stay in touch. Let's stay connected on social media. I am at Quay Edie Consulting on Facebook and Instagram. And you can always contact me for speaking and coaching services by email at hello@quayedie.com. I am so excited to share this little piece of women's history with you. And remember, it is our turn to contribute to women's history. I want to thank you for tuning in. I am Quay, and this presentation is brought to you by Quay Edie Consulting, where your personal and business growth is reignited. Thank you.
My name is Karrin Mayfield Felton, and I am the owner of Feet Planted LLC, a company whose mission it is to encourage life learners, early career professionals, to succeed in STEM, science, technology, engineering, and mathematics, as well as in life. One of the questions that I've been asking myself lately is, how can I create a sisterly environment? How can I design a community where women in the STEM space can thrive, where we can commiserate, where we can share knowledge and help each other be successful? The reason that I call it a sisterly design is because I am a sister. I am sandwiched between an older and younger sister who, in my opinion, are just awesome women, also in the STEM space. And as sisters, when we grew up together, we were there for each other. We protected each other. Mom and Dad always says, look out for your sister. Keep your eyes on her. Don't let her get out of your sight. And if something happens, you protect her and make sure that you both are safe. When I think of sisterly community, that is what I think about. Those conversations that need to be had, that phone call about sharing good news, that promotion, those events in life, whether it be the birth of a new child or whether it be you're moving into a new home. As we are professionals, it often extends to how we can survive. The good news of how we have been receiving offers, or what is the next step, and how we're excited about the pivot or the change. Those conversations, those sisterly conversations and chats have encouraged me and helped me become the woman and the STEM professional that I am right now. To share a little bit about my STEM journey, I started long ago as a process engineer working in industry. And over time, I began to gradually excel and become promoted with more responsibility. I went on to work with the Department of Defense as a project engineer about 10 or 12 years ago. And I was also an individual contributor in the space serving our men and women warfighters. I worked on projects, I worked in a program office, and one of the things that I noticed in both that and the industry environment is that there weren't many of us. We were still and are still the first or the few, and it started to really bother me. But yet I persevered, and I sought out community. I sought out people that identified with me, and I also sought out to see whom I can serve. I also went on to teach chemistry at my local community college because I wanted to give back. I wanted to test my chops in the classroom. And even in that environment, I looked over the courses and I looked over the students, and even then there was low representation of women in color in the classroom. And so it got me thinking, where are we? And if we're not present in those environments and we're not seen in leadership at the places that we work, where are my sisters? And how can I support those of us who are still the few? One of the things that really draws on my heart is to be of service and to use my opportunities and experiences and my education to share knowledge. As a woman who has a bachelor's in chemistry and a master's in chemical engineering, I have had amazing opportunities. I've had opportunities to travel, to take training, just like some of you have. And along the way, I meet men and women, and we share knowledge. We actually use our training and our education and experiences to innovate, to change, to make lives better in the fields that we are in. And that's exactly what a sisterly STEM community is going to be about. That is what I believe my purpose is, and that is my passion. As we are in Women's History Month, and as I reflect on my experiences of community, it makes me think about how I felt. I remember being in graduate school. I was struggling. I'll be fully transparent with you. I was struggling in graduate school after excelling in undergrad, and I couldn't understand it. What was the first thing that I did? I sought out help from the students that were there, to include the undergrad, the graduate students, and faculty. We talked. We shared notes. We studied together. And that community, my friends, it made me feel safe. I remember saying to myself, I have to build what I don't see. And so I began to test my chops as a mentor. I began to put myself in position to help other members of the STEM community. I began to hold mock interviews, and I began to talk to the younger, early career professionals and say, hey, if you ever need to talk, I'm here. If you ever have questions, I'm here. I begin to make myself available. We're all in so many different careers and journeys, and it doesn't have to be the same. Your community doesn't have to look exactly like you. We can be in different fields. It's often better if we have that diversity of thought, so that we can bring different perspectives, not only to our community and our tribes, but also to the environments and systems that employ us and that use our talent and often our ethnicity to further their own agenda. We need community, and creating spaces that require a different kind of commitment is hard work. It's not easy to do. And oftentimes we can be resistant to the help. We can be resistant to the support because we are not necessarily sure how to be there for each other, because some of us just haven't had those experiences. In the BIPOC community, our Black, Indigenous, and people of color need access. They need allies. We need to be able to be seen. We need to be secure. And we need to know that what we bring to the table is going to be valued. It is my mission to create pipelines that are built and sustained for our women, our girls in the STEM space. And to those employers and companies out there, what needs to also happen is that we need to have the consideration in these environments, within the companies, within the organizations, not to be exploited, not to be used to further initiative, but to be able to sit at the table collectively so that you can learn from our experiences, so that you can understand what we see from our point of view. And sometimes that's not easy. Those are hard conversations. But let me tell you, as a woman of color in STEM, it is my purpose and my goal to build that community, to share that knowledge, to connect, and to give us the resources and access so that we reach back and alongside those young women who are looking at me, who may be looking at you as a trailblazer, because that's what I did. I looked at someone who looked like me, and I looked at what they did, I looked at what they studied, and I understood a little bit about the journey. But now that I'm on my own journey, it is my purpose, it is my desire to build that community, to build it within companies, to build it within the communities that I live in, my local surrounding community, and to build it with women who are in need of advocates, who are in need of champions, who are in need to just share their knowledge, and more importantly, to be seen and appreciated for the amazing, talented women of color in STEM that we are. I hope that this message has landed well with you. If you are interested in partnering with me, in helping me create this sisterhood of STEM, please reach out to me. My name is Karrin Mayfield Felton. I'm the owner of Feet Planted LLC. I'm on all social media platforms, and I look forward to your invitation to sit at the table, to talk about, build, and sustain communities for our sisters so that we can all thrive together.
I am Janice Allen Jackson, and I am so pleased to be with you today for this very special Women's History Month. I am going to address a topic that is near and dear to my heart, and that is women in organizational leadership. I have entitled this presentation, "Where Are All My Friends?" because it is indeed lonely at the top. Of course, that is true for men as well as for women, but I think for women it is particularly important because of the heightened degree of scrutiny that women often face when they are in leadership roles. When a man makes a mistake, he is often given the benefit of the doubt, whereas when a woman makes a mistake, she is forced to either sink or swim and may only get that one opportunity. When any of us accept a leadership role, we are bombarded with any number of decisions to be made. The most important of those often are in regard to personnel. That is, who will support us, who will work with us, who will advise us. I want to take these precious few minutes to share with you some of the things that I have learned over a lifetime of leadership experiences. Lord knows that I have made my own share of mistakes, and maybe you've made one or two yourself, but we should always remember that there are lessons in the mistakes. Before I get started with my presentation, I do want to address something that's probably on your mind right now, and that is what qualifies Janice Allen Jackson to make this presentation to you. Well, first, I was the first woman city manager in Albany, Georgia. I was all of 32 years of age, and I was thrust in charge of an organization of 900 employees. During the time that I was the assistant city manager for about 3 years, we had a huge natural disaster, and I served as the public information officer for that disaster. That meant that I was on television advising the residents of the community, and one day in the community I was out, a resident of the community walked up to me and said, "You know, Miss Allen, we really appreciate everything that you've done to keep us informed and tell us what to do during this period. But, My mother and I were sitting there watching you one day, and we just said, we're just not used to having a woman on TV telling us what to do. So hopefully that lends some perspective about how my gender was perceived in that role. Later on in my career, I had the chance to become the administrator, the first woman permanent administrator of the Augusta-Richmond County government in Augusta, Georgia. That organization had almost 3,000 employees, and we had a budget of about $850 million that I was responsible for recommending and then implementing. It turned out in that instance that my bosses, my superiors, were of course the mayor and the commission. There were 11 of them and only one woman in the group. So with that as a backdrop, let me tell you a little bit more about how I prepared for those roles. Of course, I got a degree where I learned how to manage budgets, how to analyze policy, and how to shape organizational behavior. What I was not necessarily taught, though, was how to ferret out those who could be in my corner and those who maybe would not be in my corner. That, of course, speaks to the importance of continual learning, both in terms of formal professional development, as well as in terms of careful observation of the environment and those around me. So, what can I share with you to help you in your careers? First, let me give you a few don'ts. You will find that other women are either your best friends or your worst enemies. So don't assume that a woman will always be an asset to you or your organization. You'll have to look at their patterns and their behaviors and make a decision on a case-by-case basis. Likewise, don't assume that men will automatically be problematic. Some are very happy to support a competent woman, while others are troublesome and sexist. Again, please look at each on a case-by-case basis to determine if he's going to be worthy to be a part of your team. Next, if someone is always expecting you to take his or her side, run away from them as quickly as you can. They likely are not there so much to support you as they are to advance themselves. If you think back and observe how a staff person responded to the previous boss, and you notice that there's a pattern of trying to kiss up to the boss, you're probably better served by keeping that person at arm's length. They may not be there so much for you as they are for access to authority, and will likely do or say whatever it requires to gain or maintain that access. Finally, if a person is not willing to disagree with you on some issues, they probably aren't the best advisor for you. What you want is someone who will disagree respectfully at the right times and in the right settings. The truth is, we often really don't know who it is that we can trust. I have found that leaders, new and seasoned, male and female, often make the mistake of choosing an inner circle of people based too much on what they consider to be trust, as in choosing people that they expect to stay quiet or people who they think will, quote unquote, have their backs. Typically, I have found that my best strategy was choosing people who have the skill set and the temperament to complement my management style while also adding value to the organization. So, you see, I have come to redefine trust. I think the most trustworthy are those who are professionals and take pride in their work, regardless of where they are and who they're working for. Their competence is, in and of itself, something that supports leadership. These are really the ones that we can trust to ensure a high-functioning organization and thereby making us more effective organizational leaders. So, now that I've discussed a few don'ts and my perspective on trust, let's discuss some do's. 1, surround yourself with people who are secure in who they are. They understand that it is their job to make their bosses look good. They're not trying to be you. They're not trying to replace you, because they know that their time is coming, whether in your organization or someone else's. Next, surround yourself with many advisors. Listen to the entire team. Don't fall into the trap of listening to just one or two. Taking in the broad perspective builds confidence in your leadership and ensures that you have advance notice of how any given decision will be received. Become skilled in figuring out the happy medium between your multitude of advisors. Also, accept the fact that sometimes your team won't understand every decision you make. That is the reason that you are in place, to share, shape, and move forward a vision that others are not capable of seeing just now. Obviously, I cannot share every lesson that I have learned about leadership in these few minutes, but I can tell you this. I believe women make wonderful leaders, and I am here to do my part to share and help other women. Again, I am Janice Allen Jackson. I am principal of Janice Allen Jackson and Associates, LLC, which is my management consulting firm. I'm also host of the Local Matters podcast of Georgia. If you're on Facebook, please take the time to go and follow the Local Matters podcast of Georgia. Also, when you're on YouTube, subscribe to the Local Matters podcast of Georgia YouTube channel. Finally, I am ready, willing, and able to speak at your events, to present at your workshops. So please don't hesitate to reach out to me. You can reach me at my website, janiceallenjackson.weebly.com. We've got a Contact Us tab there. Please send in your information and invite me to come speak to your group at any time.
Hello, my name is Nakia Young, here to talk to you about how homeschooling has introduced Black women to our soft season. Throughout the course of our history in this country, Black women have pretty much been regarded as strong, sturdy workhorses. This was true during slavery, and it's been true to a great extent in our culture as well. Black women, the strong ones, the glue that holds the family together. The ones that, whether you like it or not, are gonna tell you like it is. The ones who carry the weight of our communities on our backs. That's who we've been. White women, on the other hand, they've had the luxury of being regarded as soft, feminine, the standard of beauty, worth protecting at all, and I do mean all, costs. Back in the days, Black women were given to white women as slaves to save them from having to do any labor whatsoever. Heaven forbid. We nursed their children. We did their laundry. We cleaned their houses. And all of those things could have been done for our own families, but we were forbidden from having any semblance of attachment to that very word, family. White people got to have families. Black people got to work, and work hard. So while we were doing everything we could for the missus, our men and our children were out in the fields under the watchful eyes of massa. Fast forward, After slavery and Jim Crow and the civil rights movement and the feminist movement, when the homeschooling movement began, right after integration, but that's another topic for another day, Black women could still be found outside of the home working as hard as ever, but for socioeconomic reasons this time. And we looked at our grandmothers and great-grandmothers and we saw that they couldn't go as far because they didn't have that much education. So we said, hey, we're going to get all the education we can. We're going to climb corporate ladders. We are going to do whatever we can so that we don't end up in their shoes. And that is exactly what we did, work hard. When that homeschooling movement came up, we just shrugged it off. Homeschooling? That sounds like some white people stuff. I gotta go to work. Ain't nobody got time for no homeschooling. Whole movement went right over our heads. But over these past 5 to 6 years, something has shifted. And it started before the pandemic. We began to get fed up with the lack of Black history, quality Black history being taught in schools. We began to get fed up with the school to prison pipeline, with public school systems just flat out refusing to meet the demands of parents and teachers screaming for change. We knew our kids deserved better, and we were beginning to get to a breaking point of letting them stay in these systems that weren't designed for them, biased, standardized testing and all, or do we do something radical and really, really risky and pull our kids out and teach them ourselves? I'll say for myself, I made the decision to become a homeschooling parent before the pandemic. I actually made it as a public school teacher before I even had kids. I talk about my journey a bit more in my TEDx talk entitled, Let's Normalize Homeschooling. But essentially, I thought it would be great if there were individualized education for all children, but I want to make sure that when I have kids, I can tailor their education to whatever they need. They will always have a teacher who looks like them and who is in their corner. That's what I'm going to do. And I made good on my promise. For everyone else, the homeschooling movement started at about 3% being African-American families. And when the coronavirus pandemic of 2020 hit, that number ballooned to 16% and climbing. That's a pretty big increase. So what happened? Well, while we were all bored in the house and in the house bored, we had a lot of time to reflect on things. And for many Black women, we got introduced to something that we didn't even know was possible. What is this? A soft season. What is a soft season? Soft season is what happens when you practice self-care, when you stop living in survival, fight, fight, fight mode, and you simply sit back and thrive. Now, it sounds very ironic that we began to go through this soft season while in the midst of a global pandemic when everyone is just trying to duck and dodge Corona. But that's exactly what happened. We began to take stock of our lives and say, I've been working too hard. This time at home has really given me some time to think, and I want better for myself. I'm learning things about my children that I didn't even know. This needs to continue. I don't want this to stop. And so we found a way to enter into a movement that had no space for us. By and large, the homeschooling community has been largely white and evangelical. The conferences, the curriculum, white, 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 white. Now, the smart homeschooling organizations are happily making space for this new melanin at the table and appreciating new perspectives. But the ones that aren't, well, let's just say we have experience at making our own table if no one wants to make space for us at theirs. Black women are discovering midday coffees and brunches. We're forming homeschool co-ops. We're taking our kids on field trips together. And I'm loving this for us. We're discovering gardening and homesteading and self-care hair salon appointments and nail appointments. We're having this soft season, and balance is being restored. As the old saying goes, happy wife, happy life. These happy Black families that are emerging are going to mean stronger, healthier communities. And I'll tell you something else that's happened too as a result of this soft season. In true Black girl magic fashion, we found a way to still put some work in there, but to make it work to our benefit. There's a direct correlation, I believe, between the rise in Black homeschool families and the rise of Black female entrepreneurs. So, as we're discovering ourselves and things that we like, we're reaching back to some of those ideas that we've always wanted to try, and we're forming our own companies, all the while still taking care of home. Look at that. This soft season that we found, we're not willing to give it up. It's here to stay. So you might as well get used to it.
Hello, peace and blessings. I am your girl, R.M. Harris, and I'm super excited to be sharing with you today about the art of spoken word. And you can definitely catch up with me on social media, my wonderful website. She is rmharris.com. That is, she is rmharris.com, and on the gram at She's RM Harris. So I'm going to dive right into this topic. I'm very passionate about this topic because I have been traveling literally around the world for more than 2 decades, even though I'm only 21. I've been traveling around the world to empower, encourage, and inspire women and young girls, especially in our Black and brown communities, to embrace your beauty, heal from your pain of life, and live out your God-given purpose with passion. Live life on fire. So I've done that and have been doing that for all of this time to really be able to utilize the gift that God has given me, which is spoken word. And so spoken word is more than just poetry. Poetry is one thing, but spoken word is another thing. So one of the things that I want to point out in this presentation is the differentiation of poetry and spoken word. And so spoken word is more of the dramatization of poetry, right? Following me? And so I'm going to give you an example. I'm going to do a poem, right? I'm going to share this particular poem, and I'm going to show you the differentiation of the two. This is called Black Woman. My mocha skin radiantly shines like a spotlight in the sun. I'm a black and beautiful woman with purpose and destiny. Now this is fun. My legs are sandy sculptured pillars with roots reaching as far as the tip of my sturdy brick feet, and my neck towers like a well put together skyscraper that pedestals my teddy bear brown eyes, Rudolph nose, and pearly whites with ears to hear more than just what you say. I'm a Black woman, yes, it's true indeed. I have lips, hips, and fingertips as the deed, topped with attitude and soul to help me reach any one of my goals. All you can see is the external, beautified portrait of me. But the real me is a spirit that owns no color, but is full of color, has wings to fly, and is more free than the wind that cools the mocha skin I'm wrapped in. I'm a black woman. Yes, honey, and sure enough blessed to be. For there are some that desire to be like me. I was created by God with a body, mind, soul, spirit, and intellect. And it's His glory my life must reflect. Black is beauty. God created me this way. I had no choice. Now that's a fact. So don't look at me and hate me just because I'm black woman. Okay, so I spit that piece. That's a beautiful poem. I think many of you will agree. It is a beautiful poem. The words are just, invigorating. They reach you and so forth. But now let me share with you the spoken word presentation of this poem, because it makes a total difference in the expression. And so, black woman, my mocha skin red and it shines like a spotlight in the sun. I'm a black and beautiful woman with purpose and destiny. Now this is fun. My legs are sandy sculptured pillars with roots reaching as far as the tip of my sturdy brick feet, and my neck towers like a well put together skyscraper that pedestals my teddy bear brown eyes, Rudolph nose, and pearly whites, with ears to hear more than just what you say. I'm a black woman, yes, and sure enough, honey, blessed to be. I have lips, hips, and fingertips as the deed, topped with attitude and soul to help me reach any one of my goals. All you can see is the external, beautified portrait of me, but the real me is a spirit that owns no color, but is full of color, has wings to fly, and is more free than the wind that cools the mocha skin I'm wrapped in. I'm a black woman, sure enough and blessed to be, because honey, there are some that desire to be like me. I was created by God with a body, mind, soul, spirit, and intellect, and it's His glory my life must reflect. Black is beauty. God created me this way. I had no choice. Now that's a fact. So don't look at me and hate me just because I'm black woman. Hey. Okay, so you see the difference in the two presentations. Spoken word, you want to give your audience an opportunity of an experience that is palpable, it's passionate, it's unforgettable. And so that is what I do in my presentations, in my wonderful opportunities when I share in the classes that I teach. So you have the opportunity when you go to my website at sheisrmharris.com to really, connect so that you can learn how to take your poetry and bring it to life through spoken word. I've been doing this for a number of years. One time I was in Nigeria, and when I shared this actual piece, Black Woman, to the audience, they were like, "That's my sister!" So, bringing to life poetry, that's what spoken word is. It's not just reading it. And I'm not a fan of reading on paper. That's not my forte. I like to memorize it and bring it to life. And I'm a little bit confined in the moment of giving you the actual, this presentation. But you want to bring your body into the whole element of presenting. And so that's what I do, and that's what this presentation is all about, is to encourage you and to instruct you and to give you the tools that you need to be able to bring your poetry to life, to bring it to a professional presentation. I've been doing this for a number of years, and I'm grateful for the opportunities that have come my way as a result of doing this. I definitely am passionate about it and look forward to hopefully working with you all very soon. Again, you can log on to my website at sheisrmharris.com and on social media at sheisrmharris, and we can link up there so that you can get the tools that you need, again, to bring your poetry into the art of spoken word. Thank you for your time. I look forward to speaking with you soon.
Greetings. My name is Deborah D. Ford, and I am so pleased to speak with you during this Women's History Month. When I reflected on my topic, I thought back on my journey, and I realized that I had asked myself a very poignant question as I was entering a milestone birthday. What do you want to be when you grow up? And I determined, not this. And then I reflected on the words of Angela Davis. She said, I am no longer accepting the things I cannot change. I am changing the things I cannot accept. And with that in mind, I thought about a discussion that I would like to share with you. Black women faculty must be creative enough and courageous enough to move themselves out of the boxes that they have been confined to. You have got to prepare yourself for success and get ready to shift into your greatness. Here's my backstory. When I was getting closer to turning 50, I realized that I had felt stagnant in my position as a communications professor at a PWI, and I determined there was nothing more that I could add to this discipline. There was nothing more that this discipline could give to me that would bring me gratification. And I determined I'm going to leap. Do I know how I'm going to do this? Absolutely not. But I'll figure it out as I move along. And I need you to understand, I had been accepted to a PhD program twice prior and did not go through the motion because I wasn't ready. I had all these doubts in my head. How can I work on a PhD when I am faculty and I've got work to grade? How can I be a student again in this position? And when I was accepted previously, well, my children are too young. And so the excuses had run out. And I realized I was either going to be dissatisfied perpetually or I was going to do something about it. And so I decided a month after my 50th birthday, I began a PhD program in general psychology at Capella University. Here I am 4 years later, a PhD candidate, all but dissertation. I am so glad that I made that leap. I am so glad that I embarked upon the journey because the growth that has come from it has been mind-blowing. There have been magnanimous challenges and also incredible experiences where I have witnessed personal growth, and I am seeing the manifestation of what I spoke into existence. At the end of 2022, I told myself, number one, I want to start speaking at conferences and I want to publish. And so I prepared myself for those things. In the middle of 2022, an opportunity arose for me to be a chapter book author. I took it. Another opportunity arose for me to be a book editor. I took it. One particular book is now available. It has already been published. The book that I'm working on, it is in the process of being developed. I also registered for conferences because I wanted to increase my curriculum vitae. I said, if other people can do it, so can I. And I
registered and got accepted. And one of those conferences, I will be a presenter at Temple University in April. So when I tell you, you've got to be intentional, you've got to be unafraid, speak it into existence, and then work toward it coming to fruition. You will amaze yourself at the things that you are able to do. Black women are pregnant with infinite possibilities. You have got to determine where you want to be. No one else can decide that for you. You cannot allow parameters or negativity or simply the fact that you aren't enough, that you aren't talented enough, that you are overlooked for opportunities, that you are not thought of. Enter into a space where when people have opportunities, they mention your name. That's what you want. That's what you want to prepare yourself for. And be unafraid to take them. If you are in a space where you are the top exceller in that space, you are the smartest person in the room, and I'm sure many of you have heard this before, you need to exit the room. You need to be unafraid to be around individuals who have reached a level in which you intend to aspire, that you intend to reach. They can give you information. They can give you tidbits. They can give you advice on how to get there. They are already where you aspire to become, aspiring to reach. Be unafraid of reaching that height. If you are too comfortable, you become stagnant. So I am so glad for that shift that occurred within me. I am so glad that in that moment, I was so frustrated, so discontent, so full of disgust with my personal situation that I decided to do something about it. No more grumbling, no more complaining. I had to put in the work, the long hours, the sleepless nights, the exhaustion, and even the frustration of sitting in classes and doing homework on my birthday, missing celebrations, missing opportunities to interact with individuals. But I was intentional, and I determined that my interactions must be purposeful. I love to enjoy the company of friends, but if those friends in the moment cannot help me to move to my next level, then I have to visit with them later. I've got engagements with individuals who have inspiration for me, who I can take a tidbit from them and add to my personal layer in life, because my journey is going to be magnanimous. I'm still in the middle of it because I've not completed the program yet. I'm working on the dissertation. There is more to come. But the point is, you've got to be unafraid. Don't let anyone tell you what you can and cannot do. If you are feeling frustrated by the lack of opportunities, you create your own opportunities. Let someone know that you're interested in collaborating with them. Trust me, I'm sure that there are individuals who are more than happy to reach back and pull you up. That's what we need during Women's History Month. We need to be reminded of our greatness. We need to be reminded of our infinite possibilities. And I just want to leave you with this last quote. Oprah Winfrey said, "Think like a queen. A queen is not afraid to fail. Failure is another stepping stone to greatness. If you don't try it, you'll never become it. And even if you fail along the journey, it's part of the lesson. And then you'll be more prepared the next time. Be great, queens. Go for what it is that you deserve. You determine what those parameters are. Be unafraid to be uncomfortable and unsure, because at the end of the journey, when you get to the point where you can see where you have been, you will be happy that you took that leap of faith."
Angela Bassett, to Amanda Gorman, Bisa Butler, Cicely Tyson, Dorothy Height to Debbie Allen, Elizabeth Catlett, Fannie Lou Hamer to Faith Ringgold, Gwendolyn Brooks to Gabby Douglas, Harriet Tubman, Ida B. Wells to Issa Rae, Jane Boleyn, Kamala Harris to Ketanji Brown Jackson, Lena Horne to Lorraine Hainsbury, Madam C.J. Walker to Michelle Obama, Nikki Giovanni to Nina Simone, Octavia Butler to Oprah, Phyllis Wheatley to Patricia Bath, Queen Latifah to Quentin Brunson, Rosa Parks to Ruby Bridges, Shirley Chisholm to Serena Williams, Tracy K. Smith to Toni Morrison, Ursula Burns, Viola Davis, Wilma Rudolph, Yamiche Alcindor, and Zora Neale Hurston. My fire, my spirit, my courage, my endurance. I said my fire, my spirit, my courage, my endurance, my fire, my spirit, my courage, my endurance survives intolerable conditions. As one of my mentors, Terry Ajile Axon, wrote in her musical tribute, "Women hold up half the sky." My name is Kristine Smith, and I am the CEO and co-founder of Inspira Performing Arts, a dance center for children and adults located in Newark and Highland Park, New Jersey. I am here to encourage you to never give up, even in difficult times. But before I get to why this is personal to me, let me tell you a little bit about myself. You see, I was born and raised in Oakland, California. I am from the flatlands of East Oakland, to be exact, 86 in Bancroft. In my intro, I named famous, influential Black women whose names you may or may not have heard of before. What do we all have in common, though? We all have a story of overcoming and never giving up. When I was 21 years old, I was diagnosed with having a pituitary brain tumor. The medication that I was taking at the time didn't reduce what the doctors wanted it to do. In 1993, my doctors told me that I needed to have surgery. On this upcoming June 24th, it will be 30 years since I had my 8.5-hour pituitary brain surgery. I asked God if He allowed me to live, that I would go forth and make a difference in the lives of the people that I touch. One of those ways was to start my dance studio, Inspira Performing Arts. Inspira began in the basement of a church with 14 kids. I was working full-time in the day as director of advertising of Sculpture magazine and doing Inspira 2 times a week at night. Next, we went to my home basement, then a community center of another church. And in March 2005, we got our first commercial location in New Brunswick. We continued to grow, then moved into a larger 5,000 square feet space with the same landlord in New Brunswick. Moving into that space had its obstacles. Midway through the build-out, we learned that the location was not zoned for children's dance, but had a variance for, get this, a strip club. We couldn't believe it. It seemed like everything was against us. We had to get a land use attorney, an architect, and go before the zoning board to prove why a community-oriented business such as Inspira should be in this location. Stress was at an all-time high. I presented before the zoning board and answered questions like I was on trial. The beautiful thing is, the seats in the courtroom were all filled with Inspira families. We had to overcome a lot, but we made it through. And we were in that development in New Brunswick for 17 years. Now fast forward to something a little more recent. On February 1st, 2020, we opened our second location in Newark. We all know what happened on March 13th, though. The world shut down because of the pandemic. We all had to figure out different ways to pivot. I took both locations and made all dance classes to operate virtually through Zoom. I applied for PPP twice and received it to make sure that my team didn't go without a paycheck. I applied for numerous grants and received them for both locations because they have their own EIN numbers. I did everything that I thought you could do, and in between all that, my mother passed away from COVID on April 17, 2020. I lost students because people didn't want to be virtual, but I continued to keep my head up. The next season, we went into a hybrid model, and we started to see numbers going downhill in enrollment. Then in 2022, the unimaginable happened. My current New Brunswick landlord, and this was my fourth in the 17 years that I had been there, decided that they all wanted their money back from COVID in 5 days, or they would take me to court. And that's exactly what they did. I had to get an attorney, and I got one pro bono through an entrepreneurship program that I had been a part of. And I soon learned that New Jersey is a landlord-friendly state, and I was told that things would more than likely not be in my favor. I couldn't believe this was happening. And to make matters worse, this was all during the 20th anniversary of Inspira's existence. In court last summer, we came to an agreement that I would have to pay a large sum of money to the landlord, and we had to leave the property on August 17th. This was one of the toughest, and I mean toughest things that I have ever done in my life. To have something that you've built, I built it from the ground up, and it was taken away from me. This was unimaginable. I was desperately trying to find a temporary space or permanent space. We were able to get Rutgers University and begin in October. But at that point, we had lost so many students because we were supposed to begin classes at the beginning of September. And they either couldn't wait or wouldn't wait. We were at Rutgers from October to December. And then at present day, now we're at Soma Value Garden in Highland Park. And we have this contract until June 2023. My enrollment for New Brunswick, which was as high as 300 students pre-pandemic, is now at an 80% loss. Depression has been pretty strong. As if that wasn't enough, during all of this, on November 7th, my wonderful 99-year-old dad suffered a stroke. So my life has been crazy, to say the least. But now it's 2023, and I knew that I couldn't stay this way. I had to pull myself out. My dad is progressing and getting better. I was able to get a therapist to help me. I have a new mindset now, and while I'm not where I want to be yet, I know that I will get there. If you're an entrepreneur, there are going to be hills and valleys. Here are 5 points that I would like for you to think about if you're navigating through a difficult time. 1, seek out resources. There are many resources available for female entrepreneurs, including mentorship programs, networking events, and business development courses. You can check into the Goldman Sachs 10,000 Small Businesses. Take advantage of these resources to gain new skills and knowledge and connect with other entrepreneurs who can offer guidance and support. 2, embrace failure. Failure is a natural part of the entrepreneurial journey, and it's important to learn from mistakes and use them as opportunities for growth. Instead of letting failure discourage you, use it as motivation to try again and do better. Number 3, stay adaptable. The business landscape can change so quickly, and it's important to be adaptable and be willing to pivot when necessary. Stay up to date on industry trends and be open to new ideas and approaches. 4, focus on the long-term goal. During challenging times, it's easy to get bogged down in the day-to-day, and we're struggling to run a business. It's important to keep the long-term goal in mind and stay motivated to achieve. 5, practice self-care. Ladies, you know, running a business can be stressful and time-consuming, especially during hard times. Female entrepreneurs, we must prioritize our physical and our mental health by taking breaks, getting enough rest, and engaging in self-care activities like exercise and meditation. Practicing self-care can help reduce stress and boost your mood and improve your overall well-being. Thank you for listening to me today. You can learn more about Inspira at inspiraarts.com. Follow me on Instagram at InspiraPack and on Facebook at Inspira Arts. My fire, my spirit, my courage, my endurance survives intolerable conditions. Thank you.
Hello, everyone. I am Fabiola Paul, the go-to mental health therapist and burnout prevention strategist. I empower, educate, and encourage women and teen girls and help them make self-care a non-negotiable through my coaching and therapeutic services. Working together, they transform from tired to thriving in every area of their life. And I'm so excited to be sharing with you in honor of Women's History Month, and equally excited to be introducing to you this topic, which is so near and dear to my heart, one of my passions, the wealth in wellness. Now, you may be thinking, what does wellness have to do with entrepreneurship or business? Well, let's talk about it. What is wellness? Well, wellness is when all the areas of your life work together. They're in harmony, and you can experience peace, joy, and happiness. So what are the areas of wellness? So there's 7 main areas of wellness. There's physical wellness, emotional wellness, spiritual wellness, occupational wellness, social wellness, environmental wellness, and financial wellness. So what does this have to do with business? Well, you can all attest when you're tired, when you're cranky, when you are just not emotionally there, it's really hard to reach your business goals or actively work towards your wealth strategy. So you either work in your wellness while you're well, or your illness will force you to work on your wellness. And so I'm here today to help you create a wellness plan, and we can start actively implementing these steps today. Okay, let's get started. So when we talk about wellness, sometimes we may often think of the one-dimensional view of wellness, chocolates, bubble bath, and hey, I like a pint of ice cream and bubble bath as much as the next person, but that is so one-dimensional, and wellness is so much richer and multi-layered. And it can also be so simple that I will be able to show you today using my tried and true method of wellness planning. So before we talk about strategy, let's talk about barriers, because I want to make sure you guys are set up for success and be able to actually do these things that I'm teaching you today. Okay. Oftentimes when women come to me and they talk about wellness, they talk about the roadblocks, the issues they're having, and the difficulties they're having getting started, they're really talking about 4 main barriers. The first one is time. Next, money. Following, resources or knowledge. And the last one is support. Oftentimes, most of the roadblocks, lie in one of those areas. What about you? Think about it. What are you dealing with today? What maybe excuses or what narrative are you telling yourself today that is stopping you from really taking your wellness seriously and thinking about it as a strategic business move for yourself? So once you answer that, that is a very important question to answer, because it's a part of the next strategy techniques. But when you think about roadblocks, sometimes people get stuck there. But oftentimes, the key to overcoming a roadblock is really being able to create that space and time to process. Most people take the time to make a business plan. They take the time to make a wellness management plan. They talk to all of the members of their team or even outside services to make sure that they're on the right track, getting knowledge and really scaling their business. But the key part, which is wellness, is often missed or overlooked. And not until something happens in their life or in your life do you stop and think, okay, wait, let me do some work or some measures or reach out to people to address this problem. So let's get into strategy. Let's think about it. How do we create a wellness plan? Well, I have a 3P method for wellness planning that we'll talk about today, and we'll share examples. So that way, my hope is you walk away with having the tools you need to create a realistic wellness plan that you can implement today. Okay, so I'm not going to leave you hanging. I'm not going to let you do this by yourself. So let's get started. The first P is prioritize. What part of the wellness dimension do you need to work on first? We want to work on one dimension at a time because it's a lot harder to spread yourself thin and work on multiple areas. You're not going to see the best results doing it that way. So when we think about, okay, what area of my life is causing me the most stress? What's keeping me up at night? What's causing me headache or costing me money? That usually is the best place to start. So think about it. What are you struggling with today? What would you like help on or assistance with today? That is a great indicator of the best place to start. So once you've picked your area of wellness, you move on to the second P, which is problem solve. Then we return back to those roadblocks. Which of those roadblocks are you facing with today? Is it time? Is it resources? Is it knowledge? Or is it support? What area or what problem do you need to be solved? And think about it and take the time to actively have a solution. So when you are faced with those roadblocks, you are not stuck. You automatically have a plan to overcome them. The last P is plan. Now, this is the action-oriented piece of the 3 Ps. I use the SMART Goals acronym to create my action statement. So each action statement corresponds with what I'm going to do to implement a healthy habit to positively impact that area of wellness that I want to work on. So think about it. What goal can I create, which is literally a statement that is specific, measurable, achievable, okay, realistic, and time-based? And these goals and these SMART goals will really help you narrow down your actionable step and make it realistic. And that's what I love, because you can really do it. So we're using all of the resources available to you to be able to positively impact your life. So let me give you an example. Let's say you are thinking about the physical dimension of wellness. You're thinking, that's usually the easiest one when people think about wellness. So let's use that as an example. You may think to yourself, this new year, I had a goal, to be more active or, to lose some weight, but it's been really difficult. I've been busy with the business. I've been stretched thin. I've been trying to scale, and I've been putting all my focus on the business, working late nights, not being able to juggle time with family, time with friends. And I am trying to expand the business, but it's only me. And so I'm the last person on my list, unfortunately. Let's say that's you and that's your situation. So you make a commitment, because we have to prioritize, which is the first P. Prioritize yourself, prioritize your wellness, because if you're not well, how can you be the driving force to your business? So once you thought about the problem and process how you would solve it, you move on to the third P, the action statement, the planning. So you're thinking about, okay, how can I make this goal of being more active realistic for me in my business? So think about it this way. What is specific? What is measurable? And how can we start off with something that is small? So you'll end up with a statement like this. I plan to work out 15 minutes a day for 5 days. I hope all of this information helped. I'm excited to see you on your wellness journey. I would love to stay connected with you all. You can follow me on my YouTube channel, my Instagram, and LinkedIn, all at the same handle, Fabiola Paul, LCSW. And if you are looking to work one-on-one or want a deeper dive, schedule a free consultation with me at www.fabiolapaullcsw.com. Thank you for joining. Thank you for listening, and yours in wellness and wealth. Have a great day.
Hello, and welcome to Women History Month Speaker Series. I'm your host, Monique A.J. Smith, and I'm going to bring to you Black women in sports leading HBCU programs. And so we're going to start with A.T.N. Thomas, the athletic director for Winston-Salem State University. And guess what? Her men's basketball team just won the CIAA championship. Isn't that fantastic? And next up, we have Dr. Ivana Rich. She is Director of Athletics at Edward Waters University, and she just begun this January. Isn't that fantastic? And she's a former coach. And she has been at Norfolk State for years. So this is her first director of athletic position. And next we have Dr. Linda Bell of Dillard University. This is also her first position being athletic director. And we're really excited for her because guess what? She is my former student athlete. Known her since she's been 17 years old. And so I have watched her come up to the ranks and can't wait to see all the great things she is going to do at Dillard University. Tiffany Seitz, Director of Athletics for Florida A&M University. This is another young lady. I've known her since she's been a student athlete. This is her first time being Director of Athletics, but she also has got a long list of activities preparing her for this. Her last stop was Dartmouth. She was the number 2 person there. She's done stints at Grambling State. She's been at Norfolk State, Chowan, Virginia Union, and of course, again, I've kind of assisted people to get their start at St. Paul's College. So I'm excited for her. And next we have Melanie Webb. She's Director of Athletics at Norfolk State University. She's been there a couple of years and doing some great things down there. She's won a couple of MEAC championships already under her belt. So she is doing great as a Spartan. She's also been a coach, and she has served in several positions, even at the Power 5 institutions. And so now this is her first time being a Director of Athletics. And next we have Keisha Campbell. She's actually the interim athletic director at South Carolina State University. And this is quite interesting because this is her alma mater. She was actually a coach there, and that's when I met her I want to say at least 25 years ago. But she's been at several places. This is not her first time being a director of athletics. And so this is exciting times for her to be alma mater and to see, to bring them in through transition. And we shall see if she gets the interim tag lifted. Okay, and next we have Dina Freeman Patton. Now, I'm excited for her because this is not her first time being director of athletics, but she is back in her home of Baltimore, Maryland. So that can be so special for her. And she just took the reins, I want to say at least 1 to 2 years. I think she might have just experienced her first year and celebrated her anniversary year. So this really is exciting. And next we have also in Maryland, Tara Owens, Director of Athletics for University of Maryland Eastern Shore. And I have known her since she too has been a student athlete. I watched her come up through the ranks. She has dibbled and dabbed as a basketball coach, and she has also been athletic director sometimes at the same place at the same time. So this is really outstanding. Her stop before now was at Central State University. Before that, like I was saying, she's been an athletic director / coach at the same institution. She was I believe, interim AD at Cheney at one time. And then she came back to be a coach. So she's got extensive background and cannot wait to see what she will do at University of Maryland Eastern Shore. Again, this is her first academic year there. And so we have going up 17. We got Delaware State University, Alicia Shields Gatson. Now, this is her first official athletic director position. And she's been there at least a couple of years, doing some great things. I really like how they handled the lacrosse Delaware State incident, and they were able to get the state of Delaware behind them with that incident. So that is a credit to her leadership. She was interim athletic director at Compton years ago, but this is her first time being at the helm and being able to lead a program. So I'm excited for her. And next, we have Peggy Davis, athletic director for Virginia State University. And she's been in a role for over a decade. I would say going close to 20 at this point. And she has a couple of CIAA championships under her belt. She's accredited of being able to pick great talent as it relates to winning. And she actually won a conference championship as a women's basketball coach. And so this is her first time being athletic director and has been able to remain there for over a decade. And that is impressive. That's impressive. And then we have a young lady, a new young lady that I'm excited to share about. This young lady is her first time being a sitting athletic director. Kavicia Brown, Central State University. Had a chance to have dialogue with her. I failed to mention that the young ladies here chosen have either been a mentee of mine, a client of mine, or a former client of mine, of my consulting firm, Seeds of Empowerment, leading others to greatness. So this young lady came to me when she was contemplating being an academic advisor and wanting to be promoted. And my suggestion to her was, what are your numbers? And she said, what do you mean? And I said, so what was a GPA before you got there? And what's a GPA now? How have you elevated the athletic department because you have been there? So I am really proud to say that she got that promotion and she got promoted again, but she comes to this position from Citadel. Before that, she was at Alabama State University. And so I feel pretty good that, again, I say I plant seeds of empowerment to lead others to greatness. And I believe this is Ms. Brown's greatness. And so I'm excited about being able to do that. Again, she just took over the position about a month ago. So we're excited to see what she's going to do at Central State University. And so that concludes my list. Again, my name is Monique A.J. Smith. I am the host of A Chat in the Garden that interviews African-American female athletic administrators every week. And we've been doing that for 9 years. 9 years. So if you'd like to join us, we're every Wednesday at 10 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. But if you're concerned that you may miss one of those podcasts, you can go to Black Women in Sports Chats, blackwomeninsportchats.com, to make sure that you get a download every week of the phenomenal women that we highlight every week. And so it's been a joy to be able to join this, to bring this to you, and in celebration of Women History Month series on the Black Speakers Network. Thank you.
Are you at risk of being a victim of narcissistic abuse? What about your daughter? What about your sister? If you're one of those people that started laughing or looked at the screen funny, let me drop this nugget to you. I bet the 158 million people in the U.S. alone that have been affected by narcissistic abuse, they probably didn't think so either. I am JohnsonMyers. I'm a 24-year retired Army combat veteran and the CEO of When She Rides. I'm also an international speaker, a 3-time best-selling author, and a certified life coach, specializing in narcissistic abuse awareness, recovery, and victim prevention. I advocate for women to understand the difference between healthy and narcissistic loving relationships. Although severe narcissism or narcissistic personality disorder affects both men and women, I advocate for women because of the experiences that I have had throughout my military and beyond. I understand that women who suffer the insidiousness of this type of mental, emotional, financial, psychological abuse, they may be doing so while they're raising children. Broken and abused women raise broken and or abused children, who in turn, when they grow up, they look for abusive relationships or be that abuser in their relationships because that is what normal is for them. So the generational cycle starts all over again. Prior to COVID, psychologists were already reporting that over 158 million people were affected by narcissistic abuse. Those numbers, though, worldwide, 450 million people. Psychologists reported that the 158 in the U.S. were low numbers because they couldn't account for the parents or the children who were of the narcissists who were affected by that generational cycle. Psychologists also reported that a person that has NPD, narcissistic personality disorder, has an average of 5 victims in their lifetime. High earners, though, they have more than that because we know more money, more victims. Narcissistic personality disorder is categorized in the same category, the same personality disorder category by the American Psychological Association, APA, as being in the same category as sociopaths and psychopaths. Sociopath and psychopath. Often when we talk about narcissistic personality disorder, people think we're talking about someone that's being selfish or someone, that's thinking all about themselves or a mama's boy. We're talking about when we deal with narcissistic abuse or narcissistic personality disorder, someone that is on the high scale in the same category as sociopath and psychopaths. And also psychologists report that someone with narcissistic personality disorder can actually have multiple disorders with that narcissistic personality disorder. Sociopath, psychopath, antisocial disorder, bipolar, whatever. They can have many others. Because narcissistic personality disorder is like the very friendly, the charming, the funny, the sexy, the physically fit, arrogant brother to sociopath and psychopath in the family, is actually more dangerous than being a sociopath or a psychopath. You can spot a sociopath or a psychopath for the most part. But because narcissism is about charming, they draw you in with that charm and with the jokes. They're able to charm people and lull them into, when they hear the off-color jokes, when they hear the off-color stuff, they dismiss it. When they see the off-color and something's not quite right, you dismiss it. Even in church, even in schools, even on your job, you dismiss it because you think you're being too sensitive. Many times women stay in narcissistically abusive relationships because they can't believe that the person that they deeply love, the person that they sleep next to, can actually hate them with a smile. They feel the disdain. They feel the hatred, but they think that they are being too critical, too sensitive. It's not until they actually get out of the situation and they go through all the abuse that they go through that they understand that their feelings was real. The average mind cannot fathom why anybody would stay in a situation like that. It's because the charm keeps drawing you in. You keep forgiving because of the charm. You think that they really didn't mean to do it when they actually know exactly what they're doing. But the charm is their weapon of choice. I'm here to tell you that those trauma bonds that you have that keeps causing you to go back into a roller coaster relationship, a hot and cold and up and down. You know, he's abusive one minute, he's nice the next. Those are trauma bonds. And that's part of the abusive game. Narcissistic, sociopath, psychopaths. Like I said, many times women don't even get out of the relationship. It takes maybe an average of 7, and psychologists say an average of 7 times before a woman actually breaks that trauma bond and gets out of that trauma bond. And there are many women that don't even get out alive. We see it in the news. We've seen it in the news for years. During the height of COVID, victims weren't even able to rationalize anymore why they were staying in a situation that they couldn't get away from. Before COVID, they could go to work, go somewhere, go on vacation, and find a break from that abuse. During COVID, there was no way out. And it was painful to have to admit that relationship that you portrayed in public as good and as strong, that you'd have to admit that it's abusive and it's a nightmare. Or to admit that beautiful home that you're living in is now a prison cell or a cage. A lot of people didn't want to give up their life. But during COVID, they couldn't even act like it was okay anymore. Most people, because of the charm that the narcissist portrays, when the victim is trying to get help, when the victim is looking for help, a lot of times she can't even go get help because part of the narcissistic abusive game is to weaponize your support system, your friends, your family, the people at work. So everybody thinks that they're so charming and they're a great catch, they can't understand why you want to leave someone that great. So when you finally do come to the understanding that it's abusive and you need to separate, you have no one to go to because everybody is kind of on that side. That's part of the game. Women that are physically abused, people can see it, people empathize, people try to get her help, but people that deal with narcissistic abuse, because their bleeding wounds is on the inside, their spirit is broken, their insides are broken, people don't see that. And so it often goes untreated and unnoticed for years until the victim starts drinking excessively or doing drugs or being very, sexually active, and then they're trying to figure out what's wrong with her, not looking at what was she doing before all of that stuff happened. So again, this is on your jobs as well as in relationships, in the churches, at the schools. Broken and abused women raise broken and or abused children. And the average therapist and counselor is not a trauma specialist. So when a victim goes out to try to get help, it's very critical that they get someone that is a trauma specialist. Because you're a therapist, because you're a counselor, does not mean you're a trauma therapist. And oftentimes victims will go to get help and then get traumatized even more because they're with someone or they've chosen a therapist or a counselor that doesn't understand trauma, even though they may say they do. It's critical that you find out that they have trauma certification, trauma, specialists. They've done school for trauma because it's a totally different situation than regular counseling and therapy. And ladies, if you find yourself head over heels for a man that, is too good to be true in 3 or 4 weeks, then you may be the target of a narcissistic abuse situation. Thank you for listening. I am Ina JohnsonMyers, your resiliency coach. You can reach me on social media, When She Rise 1, or Linktree, When She Rise 1. I honor you and I thank you.
One of the things I love about listening to speakers is that everyone has a unique story. Everyone has an experience, and when we take the time to listen and learn about their perspective, we learn so much. I sincerely hope that you took away some nuggets from our speakers today. I know that there was something that inspired you or something that you remember or can relate to. If that's the case, please put that information in the comments. As we close out this series, I encourage you to also look at the series in its entirety on YouTube for the month of March and definitely share it with others so they can enjoy it as well. All you have to do is visit blackspeakersnetwork.com/events/WHM23. I'm going to say that again because I don't want you to forget. blackspeakersnetwork.com/events/WHM23. And you can watch and share this information and all of the stories, all of the experiences that we learned as we celebrate one another for Women's History Month. Lastly, if you work for an organization or within your organization, you know that they're looking for speakers, or if you yourself are a speaker that's looking for a stage, then I need you to connect with Black Speakers Network. It is a great opportunity, and you can do that by clicking the links below. As we celebrate Women's History Month, it's not just enough that we sit and that we listen, but we also need to get out there and do. We need to share our accomplishments, share our stories, inspire the next generation to be great and accomplish amazing things. I hope that you were inspired by the speakers today, and I definitely want you to celebrate women's history, not just for the month of March, but each and every day. Thank you again for joining us.